Alright, hello everyone. I am the last pretender. And no! I'm not dead. Now, you might be asking yourselves, Last Pretender, I've already heard so much about the YouTube Disciples game. What's going on? Why haven't you been posting? Well, I will mention this in the first turn that I will be posting, which I'm hoping to post tomorrow. But we'll see how the gods of electronics decide how that plays out. But in any event, I had some serious recording issues where sound was not recorded, and so what ended up happening is that I lost the first 8 turns or so. It was pretty brutal. Well, I lost like the first 6, and then I was traveling for 2 days, so 2 turns were just automatically gone, and so those were never going to get posted anyway. But I mean, all you're really going to be missing is the expansion phase. Now, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead. I'm gonna jump right into it. You know what's going on. This is the YouTube Dominions 5 Disciples game. I mean, everybody's hyped about this. It's gonna be huge. Sigh, Nuclearmonkee, General Confusion. Man, you won't believe it. Go watch their channels, okay? It's gonna be incredible. You're gonna see giants and elves and monkeys. It's gonna be good times, people. It's gonna be good times. Now with all that in mind, I'm going to be playing a nation of men. But you know what? Men are awesome. I think we can all agree that mankind is probably the coolest of races. But we're not gonna be men. Interesting enough. It's an MA game. So I'm gonna go ahead and just do this real quick. Boop. From all the different races, and factions, I guess you could say, Lucid is going to be playing Bandarlog. He was really excited about playing this faction, and so I kind of ended up going with a faction that would kind of complement his. Because of the fact that Bandarlog has heat scales, we wanted to go with a nation that was neutral. It's kind of the optimal decision, I personally think, in a Disciples game, because I can crank up the heat scales, and it doesn't hurt me tremendously, because I'm not a cold scale nation. And it does, the thing that makes it so useful, is that it does give us more points. So that's why I ended up being the Pretender God, and Lucid went with the Disciple. Now also, the other aspect of this is that Marignon is who I ended up choosing. I don't know, did I mention that I was playing as Marignon? I don't know. Listen, you saw my hype video. You know what's going on. I'm playing Marignon. Okay? The other big thing about Marignon is their bless bonus. They get a +2 to fire and a +2 to astral, which is going to be huge because I'll go into this more later whenever we start talking about the Pretender that we're going to use. But it's going to play into how we're going to end up playing the game. So let's continue onward and talk about the actual nation we'll be playing. So we'll start with its basic units. So the first thing that you'll notice is that there's a good number of units, and honestly, like, I don't hate most of them. So the Flatulent is kind of useless. There are instances in which he would be useful. So for example, if we were to get like Fire Shield, the Flatulent would be okay. Because he would incur damage as sort of suicide warriors. Something what I was planning to do in my Let's Play with Lucid as man whenever I was using sacred summons that were really weak, to try and use them for charged bodies. But this is a different situation. However, they have their uses. We will not be using them very much. We're going to be going with more quality stuff. As far as sacreds go, at least. Flatulence. The Crossbowmen are a funky unit. So an 11 piercing damage is pretty good. So again, this is something I really need to make a video on whenever I have time. But damage typing is very important whenever looking at units, and crossbow damage being piercing does help penetrate some armor, which is kind of useful. Basically, the piercing lets it kind of get through a little more heavily armored stuff. So, but there are certain instances in which crossbowmen can be useful. There are certain instances where they're not great. So, for example, we're going to be going up against a Shad, They're one of the nations. I don't remember who's playing them, but you can't. These guys do nothing against giants. These guys are just chaff for the slaughter. So, but there are instances in which they're okay. There's swordsmen here, which, in my personal opinion, are like universally worse than halberdiers. They do a little less damage, and I mean, I'm just looking at them, and I can see no great justification for getting them. I mean, they have +1 defense, I guess. Woo! But the fact that these guys can do both piercing and slashing is so much better. They're better in sieges, which is not something to just forget about. And I think they have a long, yeah, they have a better weapons length, so they're just way better. Pikeneers are okay, but because they don't have the slashing damage, like, I think the fact that you have slashing and piercing is really good, because it kind of gives you a little bit more flexibility against different types of opponents. The slashing is better for unarmored, the piercing better for armored. Again, something that I need to go over, but basically, this is it gives a little more flexibility, and they're just a good unit. Probably never gonna get the Pikeneer or the Swordsman. Now the Man-at-Arms is an interesting guy. Kind of a weird bodyguard unit. That's okay. The shield is the big selling point for this guy, though I don't 100% know when I'll be using him. I'm having a hard time thinking of a lot of instances in which I'd really want to use them. I guess if they had some sort of highly... I mean, I don't know. I have a hard time thinking of a really clean-cut case of whenever I would want to use such a unit. Especially whenever the halberdier is so good. But maybe if there's a heavy emphasis on ranged units that my opponent brings, I might bring him out, because shields are very good against ranged. But I don't know. Similarly, we've got the Royal Guard, who is a bodyguard unit, pretty good. But again, a unit I have no idea when I would use over the Knight of the Chalice. So, the Knight of the Chalice is going to be huge. He's going to be something that we're predicating a lot on as far as the strategy for my nation. Because he is a good unit, right? 18 protection is a lot. Good defense, not terrible attack skill. Hit points are nothing great, but I mean, he hits like a train. We're looking at, I mean, he doesn't hit like a train, but he hits pretty solidly with a lance attacks of 18. He's doing slashing damage after the charge of 18, and his horse can knock out some weaker stuff. So really a pretty good unit all around. The sacredness is super great, and he can be recruited anywhere, not just in my capital, which is a big deal. So we're definitely going to want to get a lot of these guys. And these guys are, of course, going to be key to my early game expansion, in which I guess you're not going to see these videos, but and those are early turns. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to be recruiting one of these guys as a commander, and then like try to get 4 or 5 of these guys if at all possible, and try to expand outward. Now, okay, Lucid's messaging me. Lucid always messages me when I'm making a video. It's common practice of his. Yeah, so that's our guys. Honestly, this is not a bad unit roster. Like, this has got a couple of, like, I mean, crossbows, halberdiers, and Knights of the Chalice. Like, that's a decent lineup. That gives you a good bit of flexibility, right? You've got decent chaff, you've got good sacreds, you've got some archers in the event that is useful. So, not a terrible lineup here. We're going to be using that a good deal. Important to note for our magic sites, we get 4 fire gems and 1 astral pearl. Just something to note. So fire, these guys are huge fire mages. Like fire magic is a big deal, and is gonna dictate a lot of decisions that both I make and the other nations at play will make. So as far as our commanders go, we got a scout who's great. The big thing about scouts is that their upkeep is pretty low. But honestly, like, the thing about these 2 guys is that they're good units. And I'll probably, once I have a good enough economy, I'll spam them out. But these are good units to stealth around with. Troubadours are an interesting unit. The seduction is good if your enemy has... They have to have the opposite sex, yeah. Female commanders. If they don't, they're not that great. But a 70 stealth means that they're probably never going to get caught. Though I don't know that they're worth the 64 gold for upkeep. Spying, I've never had great success with. I guess I just really don't know how to use it appropriately. I should really investigate that, because that could be very useful. Friars are pretty good. They're really good against undead. And they can also be useful in like weakening enemies' dominion, especially if they have like a super combatant god. Kind of catch them off guard by weakening the dominion stuff and sort of boxing them in a little bit. But I mean, really the big thing with these guys is that they're stealthy. Priests, they're okay. Probably not gonna make too many of these. These guys are huge. The Paladins, they're level 1 priests and they're sacred. So what's gonna happen is like I was saying, is I'm gonna recruit, probably in the early game I'm gonna recruit like one of these a turn if I can, and pop out some Knights of the Chalice, throw down some blessings, and try to expand as quickly as possible. Right? You can kill a lot of different neutrals with about 4 or 5 Knights of the Chalice and a Paladin. You put these guys as bodyguards or put them in the front a little bit, depending on how you want to handle it. And they can kill a lot of different sacreds. I mean, a lot of different neutrals. So really good unit, good commander, good leadership, good map move. So they're really great. Initiates are not that hot. The only time you'd really get an initiate is if that turn you had some gold floating around and you had like 2 recruitment points that were going unused. So there's not a lot of times that these guys are really coming in handy. A level 1 fire mage is generally not that great compared to what you have available to you for 2 recruitment points. So they're just not going to come in handy a lot, and the research ability is not a big deal either. As far as the Inquisitors go, I'm not great at figuring out when to exactly use these. Level 2 Priest is okay, but this is just not something I'm going to use a lot. The Old Age is not terrible. It's just not something I'm going to probably be using a whole bunch. I don't think there are any undead nations, so it's not really something that's going to come into play a huge deal. I don't intend to recruit a bunch of these at any point in time. Then we've got the Witch Hunter, who is going to be bread and butter, man. I mean, these guys are great. You're looking at 11 research. You can recruit 1 a turn easy, no problem. Patrol bonus isn't really that big of a deal. They're sacred, which is not, you know, unremarkable. But there's a lot of things going on here that are quite good. So first of all, they've got strong magic spells, right? They've got strong magic schools. 2 fire is really good, right? If you get high enough in evocation, you're just a wrecking ball. It also means that once you run through Conjuration, you can spit out fire elementals like nobody's business, which is also great. They're priests and an astral mage, so these things can come in handy whenever we start talking about communion slaves. Good usage of this gives you an added flexibility. It's really necessary, being that Marignon is kind of one-trick pony-ish with their fire magic, so this is a big deal. I'm going to be using these guys as my probably primary mages. They're really great. So, yeah, getting as many Witch Hunters as I can. Now, unfortunately, they do tend to be kind of old, right? But we're going to do what we can. We're going to do what we can. Yeah. And what's also nice about these guys is they're only 2 recruitment points. And Paladins are 1. So in my my citadels where you have 3 recruitment points, I can get 1 of each of these a turn. Super useful. Now architects are cool because of Mason. Basically, I can upgrade my stuff further along and get like citadels and stuff, so I can get really good forts, and that's phenomenal. That's a huge boon to Marignon, and is something that I really need to use a great deal. I'm gonna definitely put to use, because it is a fundamental strength of this nation that you really need to play up. High Inquisitors, no idea when I would use these. I have no really good idea. I mean, the level 3 priest is okay, but I mean, I would rather communion slave up to get to 4. And considering these guys cost 4 recruitment points, I'm not in love with them. I can't think of too many instances in which I would want to use these. I just can't. Level 1 fire mage. Can't think of a lot of lot of instances in which I'd want to use High Inquisitor. Now the Grandmaster is pretty good. The Grandmaster is pretty good. So he's got a couple of good things going for him, old Grandmaster guy. So the first big thing is obviously the fact that he's strong in magic, right? Decent priest. You can power him up with communion slaves too, which is great news. He's got high levels of astral and fire magic, and you can get a little bonus to something else. Sometimes you can pick up an earth mage. Pretty solid, pretty solid. If you can get some earth magic, man, that's really nice. I would like to be able to tap into earth magic, because Marignon, one of the big problems I have with them, I was really tentative about playing them, is because of the fact that they're kind of one-dimensional. Like, you kind of need to go fire magic. And if everybody is getting... I mean, it's not implausible for you to end up in a war with somebody who's got a focus on sacreds and has fire resistance. And then you're just like... Burr, 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 burr. So, so getting some earth magic would be quite useful, especially considering the fact I can communion slave them up, right? So, but these are really good units. I'm probably going to be using them primarily for site searching, right? I'll build a couple of these guys, span them on out, and start getting as many gems as I can, really get my gem economy going. Yeah. So those are my units. Now, the air magic is interesting as well, if I could grab some of that. I have a real bias towards earth magic, though. I really want earth mages. I like earth magic. But air magic is really good, too. And could definitely be something that could be put to good use. I'm not super concerned about them. And part of that is because my plan is going to be to run through Conjuration as quickly as possible. Conjuration as quickly as possible, so that I believe it's at Con 5 or 6. I think it's Con 6. I can use, whenever my god comes into play, to summon Harbinger, and they're level 4 air mages. So that's something to kind of keep in mind as far as that's concerned. Now, interesting. It randomly chose the right god. So this is the god we're going to be using. Now this guy's a little different, but our current god, I believe his age is 1982. So for that reason, I felt that I needed to channel the 80s. And so we're going to be naming him Bon Jovi. And I'll be trying to name most of my major commanders and such after other awesome 80s folks. How did we build our god, and how did that play into our strategy? So first thing is, remember the bless effect, you get a +2 to your bless effect. So putting in 4, you get a 6 fire, which is quite good. We decided to go with attack skill and fire resist. The fire resist is quite useful because I'm going to be throwing a lot of fire spells and I don't want to kill my own guys. Particularly if there's some late game evocations that you can get that would be quite useful. So there's that, and then attack skill is just good. It's just always good to have attack skill. And the big thing is that, boom, we can get 8. For 8 Astro, you can get a 10. So basically, the higher you go, the more it costs to, the higher you go in powering up your god, the more it costs to get to that next level. And one of the really great things about Marignon is I get this +2 to this Astral, so we can get a 10 in Astral magic for our blast effect, which is awesome for just an 8 Astral Mage, which is great, man. That's super good. And then of course we decided to go with the OP Blood Surge. Blood Surge is wicked OP, and that's all you really have to know about that. We're going imprisoned. It's a bold move, I know, especially since we know Ashad is in the game. We know he's going to try and roll over everybody, which is some mega bless. So we're basically hoping that he's just not next to us, and that we have some magic going by the time we have to face him. And we're hoping that we don't run into any other mean blesses. But we'll see how it goes. Some of these players are very aggressive and very good. So if we can survive to year 3, we'll be quite dangerous. So what we're going to be doing is something, if I recall, nope, kind of like this. Yep, this is it, I think. Yeah. Bam. So this is what we're going to be going with as our overall build. So we've got a 7 in Dominion, so we're going to be able to recruit basically all the Knights of the Chalice I can afford. You know, taking pretty decent scales. You know, this fire scales, really, hot scales aren't that bad. Personally, I think cold scales are better. They have the same effect as far as like your income and stuff goes, but now you can cross rivers. And because of the fact that your Dominion is primarily going to be in your territory, you want to have maneuverability when being defensive. So I would just greatly prefer cold. But we're going hot scales because Bandar log. So we're, you know, hey, you know what? We're team players here. Growth, it's great. It's just great. Misfortune is kind of the one that we took the hit on, because we can pump up order to where it's not so bad. That's what we decided to do. Hopefully it's not going to be too catastrophic. Also, too, if you end up putting like six province defense in each territory, really and truly, it is not a catastrophic. So you can avoid most events. So, and 3 scales in magic, because we're going to need it desperately since we have it imprisoned. If you go imprisoned, you have to get. It's very useful. It's very advisable for you to get high magic, and the reason is because like most of these gods and stuff, if they have somebody who they're not using as a super combatant, are gonna get like awesome levels of research. So this guy's only 13, but like if we take a look at like there are some that have research that go up into like 69 and stuff like that, like outrageous levels of research. So and you really need something to answer for any mean blesses that might come your way, and magic is the way you deal with that. And so we desperately want to get some magic going as quickly as possible. And that's basically what we're going to be going with. Really hoping we can get to unleash ethereal sacreds. That would be super useful. But we'll have to see how it goes. Hoping that we don't run into too many just mega strong blesses, but we're going to play it one minute at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and upload this video and get to work on editing my first turns, so that way we can try to get things evened out with Lucid and such, so you guys can go see his perspective and then go see my perspective and bounce back and forth. Anyway, I'm very excited. We've, like I said, you know, we're well into this. I lost the recording, the sound and such, for my original version of this, so I know kind of what's going on in the beginning. But you don't. But it's a very exciting game. Lots of interesting stuff going on. And in any event, I try not to spoil anything. But yeah, man, this has been The Last Pretender. I'll see you guys next time.